All right, we will call the July 8th, 2025 Planning Commission meeting to order at 6 p.m. First item, we have our roll call. All members are in attendance with our township planning officer online, as well as our solicitor. First item that we have on the agenda is the approval of the June 10th, 2025 minutes. Is there someone that would like to make a motion for the approval of those minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from the June 10th, 2025 meeting.
All right, is there a second?
Second it.
All right, we have a motion that's been properly seconded. Discussion. All in favor, say aye. Aye. 4 ayes. Motion carries. All right, I will turn it over to our township planner. Nate, if you want to take over.
Happy to. Thank you, Chairman Barrett. Going over our first agenda item this evening, we have the Sprouts and Route 100 commercial development that has been submitted as a preliminary and final plan. I'm sure everybody is aware and recalls the sketch plan that was provided before. Just to give everybody some background for those watching from home, and for the record, we have reached out to the applicants and also in speaking with staff this evening. For all of our applications, the expectation is to receive feedback from the Planning Commission. No formal planning, zoning, or engineering letters were part of this month's packet. For the 3 agenda items this evening, the intent is for the applicants to provide a presentation on the contents and overall plan that they wish to proceed forward with the township, and again, to solicit feedback from planning commissioners. That said, just to give everybody a brief overview for members of the public, as well as the Planning Commission, this project consists of the proposed Sprouts supermarket or farmer's market, as well as now an addition of a retail building and a drive-through bank that will both adjoin the existing St. Luke's building on Route 100. There is your standard parking included, standard delivery, standard garbage receptacles that we would expect to see with this development. There is a trail system that's included. The trail system does interconnect all the way from the Sprouts building to St. Luke's, and it also includes an entrance point from near the intersection of Sauerkraut and Route 100 into the site. I should also note that there's a pretty generous landscaping plan. I would note that the applicants have provided dwarf variety of trees for underneath the PPL lines, which is something we've been urging applicants to do for some time. So that is well regarded. Thank you very much for doing that. Those trees will not grow into the lines and require large trimming into the future. And then just a couple of planning comments to get things started. In an initial review, we did see, again, comments from the Planning Commission previously, and looking at our items, just the desire to work on some facade potentially for the Sprouts farmers market, especially because it has double frontage onto Route 100 and onto the new Sauerkraut lane. We did not receive any mock-ups of the new retail center or bank, but hopefully those mesh well. When the time comes, we will see something that shows that they match Sprouts and the St. Luke's building. Again, as always, this project in particular does have residents immediately abutting on the old Quarry Road on the backside of the new Sauerkraut Lane extension, as well as residents right up Sauerkraut Lane, I should say. And those residents will be able to bike or walk to this neighborhood development. And this is a neighborhood retail development that we're thinking is going to be able to provide a lot of walkability and biking access to the doctor's offices, to the retail pad if there's restaurants there, and then of course to the farmer's market. So we're hoping to make sure that we can get as much trail access and ensure that the intersection of Route 100 and the new Sauerkraut Lane extension is lit and provides as much pedestrian access as possible, so that all those potential customers and our residents in that neighborhood have access to this site. So with that, those are the 30,000 foot up planning comments. Again, we'll have a letter at the next meeting, but I would really invite the applicants to provide you planning commissioners with a presentation for the new proposal, and then we could start a discussion and of course provide your feedback that we can incorporate into future letters, and that the applicants can take into consideration for the project moving forward.
All right, gentlemen. So if you would like to introduce yourselves and then tell us a little bit.
I'm Brent Tucker, the project engineer for the Petcock Company.
I'm Rocco Caracciolo from Janney and Company.
So as Nate had said, we were here a couple of months ago with a sketch plan that showed the Sprouts. And since then, we added the retail center in the middle of the track between the MOB and the Sprouts, mainly so that the developments were coordinated with respect to planning items such as vehicular and pedestrian access, grading, stormwater management, so that we weren't coming in later and wishing we had done something different with the Sprouts. It's a good idea to have it all together. This development does rely on Sauerkraut Lane extension and Route 100 improvements that are under review with PennDOT, HOP to be issued shortly, hopefully.
Yeah, I can give an update there. I just talked to Charlie from ICE the other day. So they've been making great progress lately. I know we've been having a lot of meetings and just really dragging on, but they submitted the full set of plans back to PennDOT about 2 weeks ago. They expect a clean letter in 2 weeks. And then the only items are the utilities, UGI, PPL, and LCA. They have to get their own private HOPs done, and then we work out the right of way. But we're a lot closer than we were a year ago when I started on the phone calls with.
Are you daring enough to give a time frame?
Hmm?
Are you daring enough to give a time frame of what you think the rest of that progress,
I think
like how long that'll take?
by spring will be under construction.
Of the road? Okay,
Yes.
it's good news. Yeah, I saw you knock on wood. That's okay. We know it's taken a while, but it would be great to
We're-
have it finished.
We're on them now, and then things are really starting to look positive there. So
Considering that that's such a big part of this
Absolutely.
happening, would either of you guys, for the sake of the planning commission, I mean, I know conceptually what I expect, but I'll summarize a little bit and maybe you can add some detail. But the HOP will include improvements up and down Route 100, including basin work that I believe is part of this plan, correct? As well as, I'll call it connecting the dots from Route 100 down the Sauerkraut Lane extension to where it currently ends, correct? And kind of finish that whole thing off,
yes, last
Include-
piece.
obviously including all of the Route 100 work. So that is because that is a separate and distinct project of its own, that can happen and should happen independently of this land development.
Agreed.
So, and as had been discussed with the sketches for Sprouts, obviously Sprouts has to access Sauerkraut Lane extension, can't go out the other way as the primary access. So that happening hopefully as soon as the spring would be a very welcome update and change. I think everybody's been looking forward to that happening for
Yeah.
quite a while. So,
Absolutely. Yeah, it really changes the movements within the township in that area. So
Yeah, everybody's anticipating it, as am I. I mean,
okay.
I've been with Jandals for about a year and 5 months. It's the first project they handed to me that was already going on since 2018. Really just bogged down, but finally we do have good movement on there. And we know that the connection of Sauerkraut Lane is vitally important as well.
Yeah.
And it all depends, as Brian said, on the regional basins that we're putting on the other side of Sauerkraut Lane and Quarry. So that will kind of tie the two of them together.
Okay.
So while we're on traffic, we did listen, and one of the requests at the sketch plan was to do a traffic study, even though a traffic study as part of Spring Creek Properties really isn't isn't needed. But since there have been some time between the agreed upon improvements as part of Spring Creek property settlement subdivision and now, there was a question whether, had there been a lot of growth, are the intersections okay? We did do a traffic study. We submitted with our application. We studied the intersection of Sauerkraut Lane and Route 100 and Shinnick Road and Route 100. And those with this development and with the anticipated development that'll be using Sauerkraut Lane extension from Spring Creek properties, the intersections operate at level service A and B. So as good as it gets. No traffic issues out here. Stormwater, Brian touched on it a little bit. We do propose some stormwater improvements that are a little bit different than what's on the HOP plan, but that's not to be worried about. We're going to get the necessary HOP supplements for the differences in the plan. It's just that the HOP designer, which is a different firm, didn't have the benefit of seeing the development, how it would drain to the basins that we now have clarity on. There's a few differences, but we will, after the permit is issued, as the current plan stands, we will submit supplements to get approval of the changes that are shown on this plan. Landscaping wise, we submitted a landscaping plan. I believe the planning commission wished there was some screening between the Sprouts parking lot and Sauerkraut Lane extension, and that screening is shown on the plan, just to deter headlights and stuff, distracting drivers at the intersection. Also, screening at the back of the loading dock. We have that screening shown on the plan, as well as your typical landscaping that is required by ordinance.
Yeah, we still have some work to do with this landscape plan. This was the first submission. Actually, Nate had some great input. I spoke with him today. So we're going to take a closer look at that, especially like some of the trees. The Jandal Land Company will own and lease everything on this site, including the MOB. So something that we're going to be maintaining. We want to make sure it's done right and attractive. I noticed right away with the screening on the retail that our landscape architect has it flipped. The bigger arm should be closer to Route 100 and the smaller ground cover along that proposed retail. So with the retail center, we do not have tenants yet. We're just starting that. Normally you have to get further in the design process, but we did engage our architect a few weeks ago, and he's proposing the elevation views and exactly what was said. We want to make sure the whole block matches. It won't be exactly what St. Luke's has. There'll be some variation, but it will be, we think it'll be nice. It'll be different than just some blasé, proposed retail strip center sitting in between a real nice grocery store and a real nice MOB. The last thing also is with the MOB, we did take the brick pillars with the fence, the wrought iron fence that goes around the front of their property. That's kind of a St. Luke's staple they picked up. I've done a lot of those in the past when I was an engineer. And it really is, it's a nice feature. So we are going to look to extend that along Route 100. We just haven't decided exactly what we're going to do, but that'll be ready for the next submittal. Will be shown on the plans. Closer? Sorry.
All right, so I think what you're saying is the fence, I'm just looking at here on Google Earth, the fence for the St. Luke's portion of this project exists all the way down Shinnick Road along with Route 100. Is the thought that that fence would also continue along all the way to the end of the project on Sauerkraut as well?
We're going to definitely wrap it around to go down Sauerkraut. We haven't got the final details on how far it goes. For the St. Luke's property, it actually stops at the sidewalk right about midway down Shinnick Road.
Okay, I see that. Got it. Okay, but it's something that would be consistent. I mean, the fact that you're planning on doing the same, I mean, consistency, I think, is what's most important about this entire project, that it all comes together. So the fencing will be the same, the trees similar, going all the way down
Yes,
the entire stretch of Route 100, and then wrapping around St. Louis, around Sauerkraut. Okay.
yep. Exactly.
And so on the plans, you listed as a proposed bank and a retail center. Retail center generic enough that we can figure out, all right, it's going to be something, but the likelihood of a bank, is that a high likelihood? Is there something in mind already, or is that just something that you thought fit the project?
You mean, I didn't hear you all the way.
So the retail, as explained on the project, you have it labeled one that says proposed retail center. That seems like that would make sense with this entire project. But then the other says proposed bank. Is that we're thinking about this, or is that, no, we have a
Oh,
tenant
that's
in mind?
we're still working on that.
So it could be something different.
Yes, it was one of the things identified as a good fit, but
Yeah.
there's no tenant yet, so we're in that process now.
Okay. Okay. Any other notable items that you worked on based on the feedback that we gave you last time?
No, it was mostly what we did between last time and this time is get to the nuts and bolts on the engineering.
Okay.
So the stormwater, the traffic, the grading, and how the stormwater is collected, the basins on the other side. So
Obviously important to the sustainability of the project. I think the part that the everyday resident sees is the facades, and I think that's the topic that probably we're going to be most interested in. Can you explain how the last time we saw a proposal, we made some suggestions there. Can you explain anything that you've added to that, or more specificity about what those changes would look like? Anything that you can show us?
we don't have anything right now. We did take actually the side of the grocery store that faces Route 100. We're just looking at different treatments to it, but we are under a lease agreement with Sprouts. This is their prototype. It's actually the ground up prototype that they have now. So we're working with them on that now, but we don't have anything to show you right now.
Can you expand on that a little bit? So when I look up Sprouts, I see so many different facades. It doesn't seem like there is one consistent brand, but it sounds like you're saying that there's a prototype for what they are trying to make as a consistent brand. Is that what you're inferring?
Yes, yeah, some of the photos that I knew, actually, Vince sent us a couple of them. And when we sent it to Sprouts, they knew about them right away. So the one that we really had a different front to it, a different feel, that was a historic building that was refurbished, repurposed. So this being ground up, this is the look they want. I think right now it's very close to how the St. Luke's building looks. But we're just still, tinkering with that. Our main thing was to get under a lease agreement and have a path forward there. And then the engineering, but we'll have more to show when we do come for the next planning commission.
Planning commission members, what comments do you have? Items that you wanted to bring up, concerns?
Last time we talked about hours of operation, specifically about truck deliveries, when they'll be making deliveries, in relation to the residential neighborhoods around it. Can you reiterate when trucks are anticipated to be delivering? How many trucks per day?
Minimum trucks per day. We'll get that information, especially with the hours of operation for the retail and the bank, but we'll follow the code, whatever the ordinance requires and guidance from the planning commission.
Okay. I appreciate you adding landscaping around the perimeter, and I'm happy to hear that the fence and brick pier detail will most likely continue down 100. Other than that, I'm excited to see the renderings of the proposed bank and retail center, and I'll make comments at the following meeting.
So building on that, as they say, a picture is always worth 1,000 words. So one of the things that will be helpful to really have an understanding of how it all fits together, because we saw the first rendering with just the sprouts. And so now that we have the retail center and the bank, it would be nice to see the full architectural renderings.
Yes.
And to get a sense of how they all fit together, right? So wanting to have a nice look and feel for the neighborhood. Following that line of reasoning, talk to us about the south side, because on the south side, that's a blank wall, right? And so we want to figure out how to make that look more appealing than a blank wall. So give us an understanding of some other ideas, given what Wes indicated. There seems to be a variety of options based upon Sprouts having a variety of ways to enhance the look of this building. And so give us a sense of some ideas that you may have been brainstorming to enhance the look of that
Yeah, that's,
part of the structure.
like I said, that's what we're working on now. That's what we'll bring with us to the next meeting.
And so
we're-
I'm really pushing and hoping you're going to bring something very creative to that meeting, where it's more than a wall that people are looking at when they're going. So I know, again, just pushing the creativity. I know you guys are very creative, so it's pushing the creativity there. And I would also love to see more than one walkway, right? So I would love to see maybe 3 walkways, one at the corner entrance. We want people to be able to have easy access to this area now that you have more retail space. Why just one path? Again, let's give the neighborhood, let's exceed expectations, right? So why not more than one walkway?
Yeah, we actually do show one on the landscape plan and then one on the site plan. So the one on the landscape plan goes up towards the retail center. The one on the site plan goes right up to the front line of the Sprouts.
Do you have one on the corner?
No, but we will. That was also something that I spoke to Nate about. It is true. There's a lot of residents, especially on Sauerkraut Lane to the south. They're going to come, they're going to cross at the crosswalk, and then it's the shortest distance to get to where they want to go. So we are going to add a connection at the corner of Sauerkraut and Route 100. And then we have the other 2, which we'll maintain. And I know I'm going to take Nate up on his offer. I'm going to sit down with him to go through to get a good third opinion from a planner.
That would be excellent, because we want people to be able to access walking their dogs, biking, bike racks. Again, we want the neighbors to be excited and have fun going to the grocery store, going to the bank, going to St. Luke's. And so I think it would be great. And it's public safety, right? To have easy access, easy walkable access, and access for people who are physically disabled, wheelchair access, right? So making sure that the sidewalks and all the access is accommodating for a variety of purposes, I think would be useful.
Yeah, kind of along those lines. I know we talked about it last time, but Sauerkraut does lead down to Quarry. So this, especially adding this retail center, if there is a sort of restaurant that gets added in and like that, I can see people coming from Quarry as well as neighborhood to this development here. So having that path and having the walkways is really important. One question I had as well is I did look around a little bit at Sprouts online and I saw that they had indoor outdoor seating. Is that something that you had planned for this?
No, we don't have outdoor seating planned with this, but
That's a great idea, Jess. Outdoor seating is another great addition for neighbors. They're walking and going there. That's a great idea. Would you be open to that?
yeah, we can discuss it, anything. That's why we're here. We're here to hear the ideas and we'll get them on the table and we'll go take a look at them.
Mm-hmm.
Any additional comments? Any,
The maple trees that you have added on, I think, one side of
In the
is it in the park?
parking lot.
Yeah.
They might, I
You know.
think that the concern might be that I believe that, are they a little bit bigger than the ones that you have planted? Or you have plans along the street, you have dwarf along the street? And then in the parking lot, they might be slightly larger. Is that the plan? Currently?
Yeah, you won't get the. Yeah, but we know we do have to go back to our landscape architect, have him take a better look.
I think that was.
I would, the one thing with maples, I think is they get bigger, the roots pop, they start popping up sidewalks, they start popping up
Yeah. I think
curbs and
that was-
things, so.
Yeah, our landscape architect has been working, working with the township to really get a good handle on what trees we prefer, even if it differs from the 2010 ordinances or even the current ordinances relative to experiences that municipalities have with street trees and root systems that bust up curbs and sidewalk, et cetera. So I would say, you know, Rocco, please make sure that if you discuss any kind of planting stuff with Nate, please include Kim Flanders at my office so that she can weigh in as well.
Yep.
If those discussions take place ahead of our letter going out, it certainly would go a long way to minimizing the letter, or at least changing how we phrase things that, hey, you know, we've talked to the developer and they're intending to do X, Y, and Z, which is different from on the plan, but we agree with this concept, blah, blah, blah. Because I think the experiences that many municipalities have is what used to be really neat and common for street trees or parking areas. They look great, but there's problems down the road and we want to try to avoid that. So we will take that kind of stuff into consideration.
And one of the things to avoid is big evergreens around the basin. You've noticed in the past, people would dump trash behind there and get big. So in addition to some of the other comments, it sounds like you're open to
Yeah.
other ideas around these types of issues for both the parking area and the basin area?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we have specifically talked with Nate about that in the time that I've been around, that the township does have concerns about what used to be the standard. And for, I think, very practical, real reasons, we don't just want a soldier row of trees around the top of the berm. You know, again,
That's great. I think that's.
things
great.
change relative to what used to be considered the norm. But there's good reason to make these changes, and even if they're not exactly what's in the ordinance, we're kind of hoping that you guys would be willing to be flexible.
So we're giving you so many ideas to come back with, to thrill us with your plans. And so on the south side, also think about another sign, right? So as you're thinking about stone veneer, or to make it look fun and interesting, you might want to also have some signage on that side, similar to, you know, Home Depot and others. But again, we want the look and feel to have, you know, it to look uniform for St. Luke's, the bank, Sprouts, the retail center. Access for bikes, for walkers.
Yeah.
And so, you know, people can sit outside. It creates a fun environment and fun atmosphere. And it creates, I think, something different that no other stores that are similar to yours would provide if you add these types of things to this space.
Understood.
So thank you for hearing our suggestions.
Yeah.
Would-
Sorry, I have
Oh, go ahead.
one last one, and I think it reminds me of something I heard recently in our neighborhood. Sorry. I had a question about the lighting, just because we do have neighbors that are nearby. Would, if you could just elaborate a little bit more on the plans for the lighting in the parking lot in both in the areas.
The lighting is dark sky compliant lighting. It's intended to just meet the ordinance requirement and have no spillover at the property line. I think, you know, maybe we're at the 0.1s or 2s at the property line, but they have the cutoff fixtures. So dark sky compliant, I think they're 25-foot poles. With the bases flush with the ground, not the 4-foot base, and then a 25-foot. 25-foot poles aren't too annoying.
they match the fixtures.
Yeah,
of
they
the-
match the fixtures for the
Yeah,
MOB.
and we match the fixtures of the medical office building from St. Luke's. This is a nice sleek.
That's really reassuring to hear. Thank you. I'm sure the residents who live on Quarry are going to really appreciate that, and the look and feel of having the MOB and everyone have the same lighting standard. That's going to be a very positive thing for the overall development. So thanks for taking the time to do that.
Yeah, and can I have a question, Brian? How soon do you think your landscape architect will have the letter ready?
It'll be another week or so, I think, but we certainly, throw out some dates and times and we'll work.
Yeah,
around
I
it.
would like to get the meeting before then.
Right.
That was the one thing for 30 years, I've been an engineer, doing the same thing Brent did, but I was more earthwork, stormwater, paving.
Yep.
Starting to get an eye for those things. And just when you get a submission in as you're going, trying to get to the date, because you have to get it in for a certain time. A couple of things just, I think were put together a little quickly on that. So I want to get our landscape plan perfect.
No, not a problem. I happen to know that our landscape architect is on vacation right now. I forget when she's due back, so I don't want to commit like exactly to a date. So I would say, reach out to me. We'll float an email. I'd say just add some dates and times and we'll try to get something nailed down. She usually gets her portion of the review done before the rest of the technical aspects. So it's entirely possible she already dove into it. But I don't want to promise something that, I can't
Yeah.
follow through on.
Yeah, and it was interesting too, the comments about the basin, because I know Nate had the same comment. They really screened the heck out of that basin. And I know there's been trouble with people using that as a dump ground. You get behind the trees, nobody can see you. And even, varmints and critters in there. So
Right.
I'd like to really get the township's direction. If those trees can be used somewhere else, that's,
Right.
a better
And
idea.
and that's the kind of thing where it would be appreciated by the township side if you'd be willing to be flexible on what you guys would like to do. I'm hoping that it coincides with what the township would like to see. So I think between Nate and Kim, we certainly can get you direction on that. Because we certainly don't want to see you guys spend time putting something on the plan that just might be ordinance compliant. We all know that the ordinances are from 2010. A lot of things have changed. So
Yeah.
if there's flexibility there on your part, it certainly would be appreciated. And I think it would go a long way to moving this forward quickly. So.
Good.
And I think along those lines, not about the landscaping so much but more about the stormwater management as it relates to the HOP and the basin. It's the same basin that we're talking about, really, right?
No, actually,
Location wise.
location-wise,
it's in the same spot.
That's what I
in
mean.
the same spot.
But so maybe Brent, you and I and Rocco have a conversation as we're going through this. Just to have an understanding of what exactly do you
Yeah.
think's going to change? Because I'm going to assume that what you show on these plans is what you feel will ultimately need to be done for the basin. It's just that because it came out, it's kind of probably more inclusive, I'll say, than what had been submitted to PennDOT a year or
Correct,
two
yeah.
ago, right?
That's
Maybe
right.
is the best way to say it.
That's right, yeah.
It's more refined.
This has the benefit of knowing
No,
what the development needs.
Yeah, it's been improved
Right.
greatly.
And I assumed as much. And for the planning commission's sake, and I don't want to take a lot of time on this because we don't really want to talk about highly technical things at the planning commission meetings. But there were basins for the MOB site that were also kind of tied with other stuff along this corridor. And they're effectively going to be putting buildings where the basins are now and then having this other, I don't know, let's call it a regional basin, but this other basin on the other side of Sauerkraut Lane Extension that will basically account for everything. So I'm sure it was not simple on Brent's part getting the nuts and bolts together, but I do know from talking with these guys over the course of time that this is something that's been in the works. And as Rocco said, this is what's on these plans is a more refined version of what's on the HOP because it just of the way the two components evolve. So.
Right. And it's kind of long overdue. There's a lot of different projects all tied together.
Yeah, for sure.
That we'll take care of.
Yeah, I think we worked with the township on this concept. And the overarching principle here is don't send water south into the known close to Precious down there on the Keller property, the Smith property, the Jindal property. Let's find a way to go the other way, reduce volumes, reduce rates. So that's not erosive, and that's what we're doing.
Great.
If I could just make one comment,
Yeah.
just Rocco and Brent, take into consideration on your lighting plan and any kind of street lighting. I don't recall what street lighting is on the Sauerkraut Lane extension, if any, but make sure we coordinate that.
All right, any members of the public that have a comment? Mike, if you'd like to come up, introduce yourself.
I'm Mike Siegel, 1939 Astor Road. I have quite a few concerns about this project, and they're all somewhat decently concerning for the residents. I don't know if there's any other residents in Ancient Oaks West that are here or Farmington Hills. Probably not. But I'm glad to see a Sprouts go in here. The problem is, and I think the planning commission should be made aware of it, this now becomes a destination point. This is no longer a community grocery store. This is going to be a destination point for every single person in the Lehigh Valley. I'm all for it, but we need to be prepared that that parking lot is going to be full all the time, not just from residents who live over there, but from other people and other municipalities who are going to come there specifically to shop. Case in proven, it's down in King of Prussia where they're located now. They're attracting, customers from all over the Montgomery County, Bucks County area. Great for the business, but I want the township to be prepared that that intersection and that store is going to be extremely busy. And what I mean by that is several things. One, the driveway connecting the offices, the medical offices in there. I don't want to see trucks parked back there at all. That's going to be a shortcut for the two warehouse facilities on either side. So the applicant has got to put something in there, maybe speed humps or something in there to keep those trucks from taking a shortcut there if the light backs up. And I promise you this, the light is going to back up at Sauerkraut and Route 100 only for the fact that this is going to be a destination point. Like I said, you're not just attracting the customers from our residential neighborhood, which is great. And, Mr. Moore brought up some great points here about the building. I worked with Mr. Jandal back when he put in the St. Luke's building. And that's the way it looks now is because Dave and I and the planning commissions at the time back in the 2000s, we sat together and worked out a really nice building concept for that office, and it's fantastic. Hopefully now they're going to take that same concept and spread it down the line here, which was, I'm glad to see and hear that. But I can't emphasize enough that this is going to be a destination point. This is going to be like putting a Costco in this area. In this area, I'm not saying it can't handle it, but I want you to be prepared that things in there are not what they seem they're going to be. I can imagine grand opening day there where you're going to have traffic backed up out on Route 100, people going in there. And I can't fault Mr. Jandal. He's bringing a great business to our area here, but I just want the planning commission to be prepared for that. The other issue, which Mr. Moore brought up, is the facade of the building. I do not want to see warehouse-looking walls out there. That's the number one issue that's got to be put in there. We need window treatments. We need different stone like we did to match the office building as much as possible. But I definitely do not want to see a solid blank wall there. I'll be very upset if I see that. And so will a bunch of other residents over in Ancient Oaks and Farmington Hills. We have to look at that. And we purposely wanted the warehouses set back away from the residential neighborhoods. The township just adopted or just took over a piece of property over there to expand the parks. And yes, this is going to be a walkability grocery store. People are going to be able to go from Creamery and Quarry Parks over to this facility. It's going to be very popular, especially during the summer months. The last thing I want to bring up is the parking area facing out toward Route 100, where you have the parking right up next to the building. I can't urge Mr. Jandal and Sprouts to put enough handicap parking spaces directly right there. More than what you think you need and what the UCC code specifies. You need a heck of a lot more than what you think you're gonna need there, because majority of the people who will come to that store on a daily basis are going to be older senior residents who live along that stretch of the Route 100. You got Legacy Oaks, you got the assisted living facilities over there, you have 55 and older communities. That whole side should be facing, there should be handicapped parking. And I don't see anything where corrals, shopping cart corrals out there, but that's another issue that needs to be addressed. But I can't urge that strong enough, because it's great to have seniors and walkability to come right up to the store, park right there. I've seen it down in BJ's down in Montgomery County, where they allow the parking spots all in front of the store just like that to be handicapped. And the residents and the customers love that, because they can go right from there without having to walk across the parking lot. The other thing, which is Sprouts is infamous for, is putting a lot of things out in front of the store for sales. Fresh produce and things out on their sidewalk. I just want to make sure there's enough walking maneuverability for the customers to walk into the store, because they're infamous for putting a lot of things out in front of the store to attract customers. But again, I praise Mr. Jandal for doing such a thing like this, but it's going to be a very extremely popular store in this township. You think Costco is something? This is the #1 regional fresh market in the country, and it comes from the Southwest, and they opened up one in Montgomery, Bucks County, and it's really popular. I hear people talk about it all the time. It's more popular than Whole Foods. So I'm just giving you a heads up. You're putting a destination point near or next to a residential area. Expect some conflicts in there. Mr. Moore brought out walkability and things like that. I want to be able to walk from Ancient Oaks West and Farmington Hills over to this facility. It's going to be pretty hard if the traffic's backed up all the time. One of the things the applicant has said that they think the traffic is not bad right now. They think it's great, but the problem I see here is the future traffic created by this store is going to be tremendous. And that's something that I don't think was ever considered when the Spring Creek industrial site came in and they did the traffic study, that you had to reach a certain point before additional center lanes be placed in along Ancient Oaks West and all the entrances there. And that needs to be gone back, because I just see that this is going to be a traffic nightmare from people going in and out of there from peak hour times. And the other thing is you got school buses turning left there at that intersection. So that I don't know if the developer knows this, but the residents in Ancient Oaks West and Farmington Hills use sauerkraut as a safe way to get out. They can't no longer make left turns coming out of Astor Road, Columbine, Foxglove. In fact, township employees have been almost killed there coming out of Foxglove, having a collision there. So that it is a tremendous issue that intersection be properly designed and be walkable. A good thing would be putting bird chirping sounds in there so people feel comfortable when they walk across the street and go into the grocery store, to the bank or whatever, not just simple or countdown timers at the crosswalks. We need to think ahead here, because that's going to be a big issue. And I would love to see what the elevations of the new store come out when it comes out in the next month or two. I know Rocco does a great job in doing that kind of thing. So I'm anxious to see what he's going to present to match up the building with the office, because I know Dave was really ecstatic when I sat down with him and offered him different approaches to the outlook of that building, and it's been fantastic. All I've heard is compliments about that building. So thank you.
Just to follow up to something there. So that traffic study that was done, that was analyzing current traffic.
That's right.
Did it also make an assumption on what traffic would be
Yes.
with Sprouts, and what was the result of that?
Right, so went out, we counted, right, we counted the existing traffic. That included the MOB, and then we projected from the ITE trip generation handbook what the traffic would be generated in the peak hour from each of these uses. And we analyzed the intersections with that traffic, and as well, since Sauerkraut Lane's not open, the existing counts wouldn't capture trips from Spring Creek properties that would be using Sauerkraut Lane. So from the master Spring Creek properties, master traffic study, we pulled those trips out and put those on the road also. And the result was that the intersection at Sauerkraut Lane operates at a level of service B, and the intersection at Shannick operates at a level of service A. So there are really no traffic issues at those intersections. I live in Farmington Hills. I have no problem using Route 100 and Sauerkraut Lane. I don't really see an issue.
I mean, traffic's always a number one expressed concern, and many times it's very accurate. There's major traffic issues. What is it that is, it's hard to understand how we could add 3, 4 businesses in that area and not see any change.
Well, we're adding a number of lanes to Route 100 and the Sauerkraut Lane. So you'll have more capacity through the intersection because you have additional lanes. Right now, it's a 2-lane intersection, or 2-lane road, and there are no turning lanes, so it tends to back up because cars can't get around each other. Here, we're going to have turning lanes. So you have much more capacity with these improvements than you do today.
So basically, it's just improved movements that will eliminate that.
That's right.
You may not have this answer, but it did come up, I believe, at the last meeting. The average visit time at Sprouts specifically. Do you have any information on how long someone typically stays at Sprouts
I don't.
versus a typical grocery store?
I don't.
No, it varies. I mean, I don't know if we haven't done any detailed study for
Okay.
somebody enters a Sprout.
4 hours again?
That we're still working on. We will meet whatever the ordinance requires. We'll have that information as well next meeting.
It was also just brought up about the handicap parking. I think that's a valid topic to look at. In all new township properties that are similar in size to this, there would be EV hookups required. Is that something that you're considering?
We don't have any EV spaces now. But yeah, we'll look at it.
We'll look at it.
I think it would be a wise decision. Obviously, we're not there yet, but it's moving in that direction. And the grocery store would be, if it's a place that people stay at for a long time, it would be an easy place to charge a vehicle.
Yeah.
Any other comments from the public? All right. Nate, any other items that you wanted to add into this?
No, I think that was a great dialogue this evening. I have plenty of notes here, and we look forward to continued discussions with the applicants prior to their next presentation for you, either next month or the month after, whenever they make a new submission.
Great. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, then Nate, if you want to introduce the next project.
Sure, happy to, sir. So the next project is the Industrial Parkway light manufacturing facility. As everyone is aware, this also came forward in a sketch plan some time ago. This site has been contemplated for a number of potential uses over the years. The site was designed such that curb cuts and stormwater were already taken into account as part of the Industrial Parkway development. This is eventually going to be the last user for this site and the last development for the site. We've seen a number of things proposed here in the past. I'm sure the Planning Commission can remember some of them as well. But this is a light manufacturing facility. This is in the Orlick zone. Specifically, designed for light manufacturing and business such as this. I should note, just for anybody who's watching from home or whatnot, that be no concern here. This is a structure that isn't big enough for it, a site that's not big enough for it. This is not a warehouse in any way, shape, or form. Our understanding from the applicant, as well as what our zoning ordinance requirements are specifically that this would be light manufacturing. You can tell that by the limited number of dock doors that face on the backside of the project and the limited number of parking spaces as well, which will accommodate both basically employees within potentially an office setting in the light manufacturing and then visitors to the site. From a planning perspective, I think we always hit on the same notes. Similar to other projects in the general area, we've worked with the applicant to really drive home the fact that buffering of the structure and buffering of those dock spaces along Albertus Road is incredibly important and essential for the site, specifically for passersby, but also because there are residential neighborhoods to the south along hills at Lockridge and whatnot. We would like to get an idea in terms of what the hours of operation would eventually be there. So the Planning Commission may want to ask about that. But again, we do appreciate the time that was taken as well with the project design companion, because if we do look at that, you'll see that there are stone accent elements around the base of this structure. They are utilizing different colors. It is going to be done in such a way that while this is an as of right use and an as of right development for the site, they're looking to bring quality to it. So that is appreciative when you look at the architecture. Like all other things, the basins are existing, but we, under the ordinance, do encourage naturalization, which is good for stormwater and water quality. And we have been in touch with the applicants about what we can do to continue to improve the landscaping plan. Beyond that, there aren't any other major topics that I have for this group. This is something where essentially this lot is surrounded by light industrial in the general area, so it matches its similar uses. But it is also on the edge of where we do have some residential uses to the south, and we want to continue to remain cognizant of that. I will defer when we get to the technical discussions in a future meeting to the township engineer to talk about stormwater management and traffic management for the site. But beyond that, I'd invite the Planning Commission to, after the applicants provide their presentation to you on their updated plan, to provide any feedback that we can work into our review letters and take under consideration as we move forward on this project.
All right. So
All
want
right.
to tell us a little bit about your project?
Sure. Well, when I was introduced, so Kate Durso from Fitzpatrick Lands and Buba.
Lisa Pachter with NP Land Holdings, and Nick Nadeau is my business partner. He's the N on the page.
And Alan Fornwalt from Keystone Consulting Engineers.
So just some background. The applicant was before the Planning Commission in January with a sketch plan, submitted the land development plans in May with the hopes that we would have a review letter. Understanding we don't have a review letter, Alan will sort of give some kind of commentary of what has transpired since the January sketch plan review.
Okay, thank you. So with that, for the benefit of everyone, because I know not everyone was here in January, but in January, we were here with a sketch plan. The building footprint was exactly the same as what it is here. It's a 55,000 square foot light manufacturing facility as described. The dock doors and truck parking are in the rear of the building, which is to the west or to the left of the screen, as you see it. And the automobiles for employees are in the front of the building, which is on the east side, facing Shannick Road. There are two driveways, as was kind of originally contemplated for this subdivision. They both go out to Industrial Parkway, which is now on the right side of the screen. So basically, the flow is that the truck traffic would go in the second exit or driveway that's towards the top of the screen. And the automobiles would go in the lower driveway there. So that's the general flow. As far as amenities are concerned, there are locations shown on the plan for truck driver amenities so that they can rest and find someplace, while they wait or before they head out. So that's on site. The overall contemplated, for the improvement of the truck traffic throughout the township to provide such improvements and amenities on given sites. So that's there. There's also, from a pedestrian standpoint, there's sidewalk connectivity out to Industrial Parkway, and it goes around the front of the building, the way it's oriented there now, the left of the building, and then around to the back to the truck amenity areas. There's existing sidewalks along Industrial Parkway, a macadam pathway on Albertus Road, and also sidewalk along Shannick. So that's kind of the overall layout for those who haven't seen it before. Pretty straightforward. The use is by right.
Yeah, and as Nate mentioned, the design companion was submitted as well as a more detailed landscaping plan than what was presented at the sketch plan review. Nate did mention something about hours of operation. This is a spec project currently, so the hours of operation would be more defined once the tenant is established. And as is typical with light manufacturing, you need to get the approvals in place first before you have somebody ready to go with it.
So talking about stormwater, it was mentioned before, there are 3 existing retention basins on the site. So one is located between the 2 proposed driveways. One is at the intersection, the corner there of Industrial Parkway and Shannick. And then the third one is the long, thin one that's parallel with Shannick Road. From a volume standpoint, so they retain to reduce the rate of runoff. From a volume standpoint, there's an existing spray irrigation system that takes water out of the basin at the corner of the intersection, sprays both on this property and also across the street on Industrial Parkway on that parcel. As mentioned before, this is kind of the last parcel. It's actually 2 small parcels in this development, and it's kind of been, pieced together over the years from a stormwater standpoint, looking at it as an overall development, but not knowing exactly what was going to develop here. So from a detention standpoint, it was previously designed for having the ability to have 70% impervious cover, and there is some volume reduction. What we're proposing to do is maintain the irrigation system for volume reduction on the other side of the street, but remove the zone that's on this property and embellish that with a larger spray area that's going to be in the orientation of this plan now, kind of off the plan to the top off of Albertus Road. So that's kind of the overall stormwater approach. From a traffic standpoint, again, all of the traffic is coming to and from Industrial Parkway, which is a cul-de-sac. It was all contemplated that that's what this park was going to be for. We looked at 3 intersections that we studied, which was Industrial Parkway with Shannick, and then one on either side, which is Shannick and Route 100, which is a signalized intersection, and also Shannick down at Albertus Road, which is a 4-way stop condition down there. And basically from a truck traffic standpoint, we're looking at about 2 trucks per peak hour in the morning and the same for the PM peak hour. So we're not talking about many trucks at all. overall traffic, including the automobiles, is roughly 40 in the evening and 30 in the morning. So that's from a traffic standpoint. From the township engineer sketch plan review back in January, there was a lot of operations and use from the ordinance as far as, not storing materials outside, not emitting any odors or smoke or things like that. So those are, by the operation of this facility, managed. Also, there was mention of the design companion. So that's, that has been submitted. And I think overall, that covers most things from the sketch plan. Public water and public sewer is going to service this site just as it is, or does on all the other sites around it.
All right. What comments members of the Planning Commission have?
Can you repeat the truck traffic? I heard the number 2 and I heard 30.
So overall traffic, which would be trucks and automobiles, is about 40 in the PM peak hour between 4 and 6 in the afternoon, and then about 30 in the morning from 7 to 9. And then of that traffic, 2 of those vehicles would be trucks, both in the morning and in the afternoon.
So I think there's 2 major things that come with these types of buildings and that are concerns. One is traffic. It sounds like that's minimal.
Yes.
And then the second one is the looks. I'm assuming that that's just a rendering, but is that more or less the look that you think will be what this
So-
building will look like?
So we are getting approvals in the hopes of attracting a company to the site.
Mhm.
We don't know if they'll like our building and our look, or if they will have their own specific colors, or if they have standard models. But we have found that this is an attractive kind of standard for that fits multiple companies. So that's why we settled on this kind of color scheme with the entrances and the corner window areas to create some architectural appeal.
And what about, so you have dual frontage on this property, one on Albertus Road, which I think more residents would inherently see either from their houses that live in Lockridge and the other neighborhoods that surround that. Probably when they come to Shonik, they're either making a left or a right, but maybe they are going straight and then would see the other side of that building. Is there anything that'll be done to make both sides have some sort of frontage look, or will one side really be the defined front?
No, this would be the defining front on Shonik. And on Albertus, we put trees along Albertus to try to mask the view of the building. And I think one of the comments earlier tonight was about the power lines. And I did notice that our plan has 3 red maples that kind of pinch point with the power line. So we would be willing to look at doing a dwarf maple at that pinch point. But if you look at our revised landscaping plan, I don't know if that can be brought up on the screen, and zoomed out so you can see the entire site. Specifically this section to the along Albertus. So there's a back field, it's kind of a dogleg area that has natural trees in it right now. So there's you just look at the additions of the landscaping we put on, we're kind of filling in the gaps around the trees. So the natural vegetation that's there will remain and continue to help mask the view as if you were traveling down the road on Albertus heading towards Shonik. And then we added in some variety along the Albertus side of the building to create some visual appeal with having distinction in color and texture within the trees along that side of the road.
Okay, yeah, because the building sits, I mean, there's that land sits quite a bit higher. I bet the elevation, I don't see it in front of me, but it's fairly significant. So anything that can kind of shield that building so it doesn't feel like it's standing out. And what was the elevation of the building?
The height of the building?
Correct.
I believe the maximum height per the ordinance is 50 feet. I highly doubt that a building of this size would be built at that height.
Alan, do you know what the difference in elevation is? That he was asking between the ground
From,
and
yeah,
then.
from the road, I mean, the trail or the sidewalk path is a little bit higher, but then there's a quite substantial berm there that elevates the rest of that.
So generally speaking, I don't have the grading plan right in front of me, but generally speaking, this site was, throughout the years, this site stored a bunch of extra soil material that was used from developing the rest of the parcels.
Mhm.
So there for a while, I believe there was, some piles of soil material, talking 10, 20 years ago. But more recently, it was leveled out, and generally speaking, the site is pretty even from a cut fill standpoint. So the floor elevation might be a couple of feet lower than what's out there today as far as kind of a level area, but generally speaking, within 5 feet, we'll say it's kind of where the property is today.
Yeah, I'm just looking at one that's a little hard to read here. It looks like,
I think we have.
I believe Albertus Road sits at an elevation of 320.
yeah,
Or, sorry, 345 feet. And like our sidewalk at our building is at elevation of 433.
it goes along in the idea of some of the dwarf trees, which have a benefit, but also those taller trees would help kind of change the scale of that building. Instead of seeing it from a distance, maybe you'd see trees in front of it along Albertus Road.
Yeah, I mean, generally speaking, what we're proposing here is a flat building. Obviously, it's not going to have steps within it. And there is a significant slope on Albertus Road itself from 435 towards this side of the property down to 420 at the intersection. So Albertus Road is at a significant slope. And our finished floor elevation is 435. So, it does stick up a little bit from the intersection, which we can handle with landscaping, but there's not a whole lot we can do about the change in grade and along Albertus Road.
Yeah. Okay. What comments do others have?
I was gonna say that I like the aesthetic. I think the aesthetic fits within how the other buildings are looking around the area. Just two minor comments, if you could maybe talk about, maybe you've updated this in your landscaping plan, but you're buffering for the houses toward the south. Are they buffering, and how's the lighting in that area? And then do you have any idea of who the tenant will be? Any updates from that perspective? But those are my minor comments about
Yeah.
buffering
Alan, you want to talk
and the
about
lighting
Yeah.
the buffer and lighting, and then let Lisa
for the
take
south
tenant.
residents?
Yeah, so we'll start from the lighting standpoint. So the first thing I have to point out is that, as this is a great orientation of the plan here. So Albertus Road, there's significantly more frontage than what we're actually developing. So the whole upper part there is existing trees that we're supplementing with some additional trees and shrubbery, and that's also where the spray irrigation is going. So we have the part down further where we're developing. So there is lighting proposed, on the building, for safety and around the site, but obviously they're all dark sky compliant. They all have, no spillover of the property line. So the light is contained on the property. And of course, that's all cut down further by having the landscaping there.
Thank you.
Yeah, and in the design companion, you can see the overall aerial. So across Shannick Road is Mack Trucks. Then we have, I think it's paint, true green paint or something like that. Sherman-Williams, sorry, yeah. And then there's a vacant field, so there's not a ton of residents nearby. And as Alan said, the residents really would be further to the west on Albertus, and then across a field, and then another creek area with trees. To address the issue of user, so typically in buildings of this size, tenants only look about 8 to 12 months out from when they need the space. And as we sit here today, we're, a little less than a year before we'll be able to break ground based on permitting times and getting our MPDS permits and things. So the timing just hasn't lined up yet. We've had activity on the site, a couple of names you would recognize that are local in the area already, but nothing concrete at this time. And we won't expect it until possibly later in this year, which would be great for us and great to be able to give you guys that information.
Sounds good. Good to know you already have activity.
Yes.
Excellent. Thank you.
All right, any other comments? Any comments from the public? Hearing none. All right, I don't think we have anything else.
Just, Brian, when would we expect the review letter? Like, do you have an idea?
We'll have something out within the next week or so.
Oh, great.
Yeah, I looked through a draft this afternoon. It's on the lengthy side, but we will have something out.
No, that's great, because then they might want to set up,
Yeah, understood.
something and go through it.
Yep.
Great. Thank you.
Perfect, thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, thank you.
All right, and then for our next item, if you want to introduce this again, Nate?
Sure thing. So this is also a familiar one, as last month we did look at the conditional use application for this proposal. Red Maple Acres is an existing mobile home community right off of Grange Road. Been there for many years. This is a proposal for an expansion of 36 units, mobile home units at the back end of the site. This is a site that, again, has had a number of residences. This development has been there for quite some time, so it's now just getting an expansion. And this expansion is part of an existing back lot you can see there. Essentially, the development is made up of two lots, one that fronts immediately on Grange and a secondary one towards the back. As discussed at the Planning Commission meeting last month, when the Planning Commission provided a recommendation of conditional use, we were really focused, at least on the planning end, regarding walkability for residents to get down the path along Grange Road that's currently being under construction from Bite Simca to Hamilton Boulevard, so that if bikers or walkers wanted to get to businesses on Hamilton Boulevard, they'd be able to do so. We focused very heavily on emergency services for the site, ensuring that fire, police, and EMS can safely get in that existing road network and the newly proposed road network in the event of an emergency. So we were talking about all the roadways of the site, getting to the new units in the back as well as the existing. And the same goes for making sure that the addressing for all the existing units as well as the new ones is in good shape so that emergency services can provide the site. We did spend some time talking about landscaping and lighting. The light standards for the new expansion are quite nice. With a landscaping perspective in mind, they are talking about utilizing smaller trees like crab apples and dogwoods for the size and scale. That's perfect, given the space and the confines of the area. A waiver has been requested regarding street size. Moving forward, that's something that the Planning Commission may want to discuss a little bit further, again, with an eye for emergency access. And then, of course, as you can see in the dark gray areas there, that's stormwater management areas. We defer to the township engineer, and there will be technical discussions at a later meeting. But as you can see, it does back up immediately to those residences. And we just want to make sure that when there's a large storm event, such as the remnants of a hurricane that make their way up the coast, or significant heavy thunderstorms, that those areas don't have a potential hazard for the residents that are right next door. But by and large, we do have the conditional use getting ready to head to the Board of Commissioners for a hearing. And in that conditional use, we did handle a lot of the planning related items. The applicants will provide you with hopefully an update on where things stand from their contemplation of the last appearance. Planning commissioners, if you have any questions, please let me know. And then, of course, as Engineer McAdam noted, we're currently, like with all the other applications, providing a technical review letter that'll be released in the near future. So with that, I hand it over to you, Mr. Chairman, and I'm happy to answer any other questions.
Great, thank you. All right, gentlemen, if you'd like to introduce yourself for the record and then tell us about your project.
My name is Frank Diamore from Fitzpatrick Lancet Booba. My name is Frank Diamore from Fitzpatrick Lancet Booba.
And I'm Lou Rock from Lehigh Engineering.
Nathan Jamison with the property owner.
Thank you.
Right. So, I mean, Mr. Jones summarized it very well, but we applied for land development and conditional use approval back in May. We were here back in June. We went over fairly narrow planning items at that time regarding mostly our conditional use application. We don't have the benefit of a technical review letter tonight, so we're really here to speak with the Planning Commission, answer any questions you have, and see where we can go from here.
Great. Well, obviously this project is fresh because it's been moving along pretty quickly. So members of the Planning Commission, you've seen this a few times now. What comments do you have? I know there have been some concerns brought up periodically, but now's the perfect time to express those. So anyone have comments they want to start with?
My first comment would be hesitant to have a waiver for the reduced roadway. I know that the remainder of the Red Maple has, I think, 22 feet, but I don't think it's not prudent to allow that to continue, which would not allow emergency vehicles to get back there. It just brings up more concerns I have that how are emergency vehicles going to get back there? Other than that, I think Nate, talked about the stormwater management. The basin is very close to the proposed homes, which I have concerns about. And lastly, walkability. How can someone get out to Grange Road safely throughout the park?
I agree with all of those. The street size also creates, an opening for other places that we are trying to adhere to a specific standard. Even just looking at it, you can see it was a project that evolved over time, kind of the no standard to some standards to now modern standards. And even though it might feel like in other projects, it's best to kind of merge those two, in this type of project, I don't think that's beneficial. I also think having that connectivity down to Hamilton is a crucial element. It's a crucial element everywhere in the township. It's not just this project, it's everywhere in the township that we have those kinds of walkable connectivity everywhere. And this is a perfect place to start with more of that. Either of you have comments?
Do you have responses to some of those comments? So if we talk about access, pedestrian access.
I would like to discuss the 22-foot wide, if you folks aren't okay with them. We were looking for 22, which basically meets the width of the remainder of the park to get through. I mean, are you seriously looking for like a 36-foot wide road, or what are you looking for width-wise to meet standard now? We are providing for 3 separate parking spaces off of the road. So it's off street, so the vehicles coming through emergency-wise isn't dealing with anyone parked on the roadway. I believe Nathan has improved signage already within the existing park, which from my understanding was one of the problems with the park in the first place, as much as the narrow roads, was that it really wasn't signed very well for emergency personnel when they got there to find the residences throughout the park and different roads throughout the park. So if 22 is not fine, what number are you folks okay with? I mean, that,
Yeah, if I may, just to put a finer point on it, if 36 is what you're talking about, well, we should probably just leave. The project will be infeasible. So the township will lose 36 more affordable homes in the township because, as you can see, you can't widen the streets by 14 feet and have room for the homes. So respectfully, I would just prefer to save your time. Furthermore, reducing the density would make it financially infeasible to construct an affordable home property. I mean, this is one of the most affordable sources of quality homes in the township, and we're excited that the zoning hearing board found us eligible for additional density after this plan was fully approved and recordable a number of years ago, and we're completing the development. We view it as a completion versus an expansion, just because the final phase was not completed due to some family and health issues for the prior owner. So, we have private streets proposed consistent with the existing development, but furthermore, all off-street parking. So I just respectfully request that you be clear about what you'd be looking for in terms of road width. Thanks.
Before we get into that, if I may interject, and I think this is just for the benefit of both the Planning Commission as well as the applicants, as part of the review process, the Township Fire Marshal is going to look this plan over and provide comment. We haven't received those comments yet, but obviously those, I believe, and Mr. Chairman, please stop me if I'm speaking out of turn, are going to be essential in allaying any concerns regarding the road width. It's really, I think, to me, it sounds like, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, what I'm hearing from planning commissioners, and I know we've discussed at the staff level as well, is just ensuring that the existing park as well as the new units all have serviceability from our life safety personnel, fire, EMS, and police. And if we get that sign off, which, again, that plan will be reviewed and a comment letter will be forthcoming, we'll be able to have a very clear picture of how our emergency personnel feel about that.
Yes, 100%. It's safety driven. It's driven by nothing else than that. I understand that, great. If it's affordable housing, but it's not safe, what's the benefit, right? So if we can't make it safe, yes, just walk away. But if we can make it safe and we can find something that works, then we're having a real conversation here.
I'd like to clarify something. Lou, you threw out 36 feet. Has that number come from anybody at the township?
no, I'm through 36. I'm asking if there was a number. I'm just throwing
No,
36
because
out because
I just wanted to clarify.
yes.
Because I can tell you that our letter is still in the works. We have had conversations with the township. I don't believe that there's a firm number
Correct.
for width that's been discussed. Like, we're going to make sure we include this in the reviews, right? I can tell you that for this extension, if you will, of the mobile home park, you have fairly broad, sweeping curves that are much more agreeable, I'll say, to turning movements for larger vehicles. I don't want to speak out of turn, but I think it's kind of a combination of 22 feet is really narrow. I get it. There are 3 spaces off street provided for each of the units. We can see that for sure. But 22 feet is narrow, and, with no curb, it's possible that people are going to just kind of pull up near their unit, maybe not completely in the parking spaces. The 22 feet shrinks quickly if you have, I'm just throwing things out there. I'm not saying they're in the mobile home park. You have maybe a delivery of something here and there, or you got like some trash cans out. The 22 feet can shrink pretty badly, pretty quickly. I think, and on behalf of emergency services people, it's kind of like you don't want to have to be dodging stuff on your way to put out a fire or something, right? So I could tell you that I have not nailed down a specific number that I think would be appropriate. I will say that I'm not entirely keen on 22 feet plus the extra for a pedestrian walkway. And I did take a quick look at our traffic engineer's review. He's not happy about that either. We would like some separation. So I think there's going to be some ongoing discussions about exactly what can and should happen in there. But first and foremost, as Wes has pointed out, we have to take serious consideration into what fire marshal would like. And, you know, Nate, that's not to say we don't care that you can just pack up and go. That's not the point. But we need to be comfortable on the township side with what may eventually get a recommendation. So I just wanted to clarify where the 36 was coming from, because that's a dramatic difference from 22.
Significance, yeah, and it's just, you know, it's one of the standards in the, we just
For
buzz
sure.
around, so
For sure.
it's one out there, so
I'm,
it's just a number that's thrown out, and we're just looking for a number so we have an idea of what we're looking at
understood.
cost-wise and whether this is going to be feasible or not before we continue to get deeper and deeper and deeper into design costs and everything
Totally
else.
get it.
We're already talking about adding a path along Grange Road, which we don't have a problem with doing that. We saw that they've got some connections coming from Hamilton already and adjacent development, so makes sense. Don't have a problem with it, but again, it's a cost that gets added to the whole thing.
Sure.
If I may, just for clarity, absolutely agree with you 100%. I mean, safety is of utmost importance, and nothing I've said was intended to diminish that. We're excited to see the review letter and respond to that as well as your technical review. I think you know, we're excited for the completion of this project. There's significant demand for these type of homes. The quality of the homes has improved dramatically over the last number of decades. And I think on the connectivity, hopefully you see that we have connectivity down to Grange, and it's our understanding this commission would like to see the connectivity along Grange, connecting to the existing things there, and we're fine with that. We'd be excited to add that and help our residents get to Hamilton.
Yeah, I think it's very important and it adds value to your project. And I think that affordable housing is a very, very important thing, regardless of where it is. It happens to be in Loma Country, but anywhere here in Lehigh Valley. So a lot of positive things, but public safety part is paramount. Additional comments?
This might just be kind of ignorant here, but I like that there aren't any structures that kind of back up directly to 222. That's really nice. But is that these basins, and I guess my concern with all of like the flooding, especially recently, with all of like on the news, with that and the noise from 222 from that side, that is just going to be like a basin on that side of the road, like on 222. What's the noise? How's like for the residents that are going to be there? Like on the other side of the basin, is there any sort of trees or anything?
There's a wall.
Yeah,
There's a
I think there's a wall there,
Oh,
a
okay.
sound wall. Yeah.
Okay, so then that's
Existing from
existing from the highway.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. But then I guess still back to the flooding issue. I don't really know much about that, but like, what's the?
There's an existing channel that flows along 222 that as you're looking at the screen, it would go from our property and continue to the right.
Mhm.
And that would be where we would be discharging into that existing channel. We did have discussions with the adjacent property owner to the right. And we have installed a swale we're proposing at the back of the units that abut the residences with storm piping in the back to capture any water that would be leaving our site before we get to their property and get it into the detention basin.
And that's like a higher elevation than.
The residents that are existing are below our property site. So as of right now, it's coming off our property and flowing onto their site. So we said we would capture that water before it ever leaves our site to them.
Something I just want to note here as well is manufactured housing, which this is, tends to be set higher than traditional housing. So in many cases, homes a stick-built home would be built on slab, And so the front door is at a lower elevation. Historically, flooding is unpredictable. Stormwater is designed to address that. But of course, there are uncertainties. Just, it's a point of fact that manufactured housing is elevated and tends to withstand flooding in a better manner than traditional site-built homes that are built on slab.
And you may have said this, but just so I can have clarity around it, your location is perfect because you have a lot of access to bus stops, hiking trails, etc. So can you summarize what are the pedestrian access points? Just to get a sense of, given the prime location that you have.
Yeah, sure.
Where are all the ways people can get in and out?
And Lou, you jump in if you think I'm wrong here, but there's not currently a pedestrian access. There's no sidewalk to the site that I'm aware of. However, as part of our plan, we'd be introducing pedestrian access from the completion of the property through the property to Grange Road. And then, consistent with the Planning Commission's request, extending that, connecting that sidewalk at Grange Road up toward Hamilton where it meets existing property,
And
other
that's where
properties.
The bus stop is located. I think there's a bus stop here or something.
Sounds right to me. Our property does not go that far. Our property stops maybe
The
two
Hamilton,
two or three properties before Hamilton.
but you're connecting it to,
We'll be connecting out to Hamilton, yes.
okay. Okay, thank you.
Through two other properties.
Yeah, there's other properties that are extending now up Grange Road, and we will be connecting to that extension. once they
Okay.
put them in.
Okay, excellent.
The size of the parking spaces, so there's three, which sounds adequate from the standpoint of total cars. What's the depth of those?
Off the top of my head, I'm not sure if they're 18 feet or 20 foot deep.
Because, I mean, anyone that's built a parking space knows that cars only get larger. And anyone that has even a large SUV, but definitely a pickup truck, they stick out into the road. That kind of came up when Brian brought up about any obstructions. It happens most frequently, I think, when there's a parking space that's close to a sidewalk, that it just tends to trail onto the sidewalk, rendering the sidewalk useless. But in this case, we're working on very tight quarters, and that might even end up being in the street, which would then, again, impede our exact concern from the beginning. So if you can let us know the size of those parking spaces, and if they are the minimum standard, I'd suggest that they are able to handle a much larger vehicle, like a pickup truck, instead of just a small sedan. Additional comments?
I had a question. Are we, the conditional use, are we scheduled? Is 7? Okay. Should be. Thanks.
Any additional questions that you have for us based on the comments that we offered? Any comments from the public? Maury, none? Okay. All right.
All right, thank you very
Think
much.
you got
Thank
it.
you.
Thanks. And then we have one additional item on the agenda. It's just a correspondence from 1138 Mill Creek Road. They proposed a daycare. They submitted a withdrawal letter, so they are no longer proposing that daycare. Nate, any updates on projects that we had been working on, some that moved to the commissioner level and were approved, or that are in the pipeline? Just a general
Yeah,
update.
sure. I'm happy to, sir. So we can expect at the next regular meeting of the Board of Commissioners, they will be contemplating the 1500 Trexler Town Western Lehigh Services. That is set to be on the agenda, as is the 617 North Crocs Mixed Use Project. Both of those will be reviewed by the Board of Commissioners at their upcoming meeting. As previously noted, we are planning and scheduling for the conditional use hearing for Red Maple Acres in August. And then just as recently as June, the Hamilton Square development was approved by the Board of Commissioners. So as well as, I should say, and what we're very proud of, the minor subdivision for the Schenkel property, which will preserve a great number of acres up on South Mountain, as well as some existing farmland. So a number of items have gone before the board or are getting ready to go before the board. And as we do every month, we'll give you an update on how that all turns out.
Terrific. All right. Any other comments anywhere? Motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
All right. Do we have a second?
A second.
Discussion, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned at 7:36. Thank you.